This is Dr. J. Welcome to Thesising 101, where you will feel guilty about taking breaks. In this series, we cover tips and tricks to help you on your research journey. If you haven't watched the previous academic writing lesson, you can find the links in the description box below. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. Today's focus is on anticipating questions your reader may ask. Let's get right into it. In the previous lesson, we crafted arguments by stating our points, providing evidence for making the point, explaining how our evidence supports the point, and reconfirming it. If you can recall, we looked at a paragraph as a conversation with the reader. They ask questions and we answer them in writing. These questions we consider as standard questions. They are, why are you here? What makes you say that? Why are you telling me this? And how does this relate to your point again? In this lesson, we will be focusing on the second type of conversation, which is all about content questions the reader may ask in response to points you make. I am going to use an example from a data collection and analysis chapter to showcase how the Peel method can be adjusted to get your point across. The point that we want to make in this example is that we had a data collection method in the form of informal conversations that wasn't planned for. For the rest of the paragraph, we need to convince the reader that the data collected is usable. If we use the standard questions to complete this paragraph, we may have difficulty answering them. If you say the original case design didn't include informal conversations and the reader asks, what makes you say that? How would you respond without sounding snarky? In these cases, we need to think of more realistic questions that the reader may ask. They could ask if collecting data through informal conversations is a valid data collection method. We can consider this as our primary content question. So if the reader questions the validity of the data collection method, they may also question the data, the findings, and the contributions. These additional concerns we'll think of as secondary content questions. Considering that our entire thesis may be in question because of an unplanned data collection method, we need to find a way to put the reader's mind at ease. I suggest you start by answering the primary content question. The problem is, if we address the concern about the validity of the data collection method, the answer would not be considered providing evidence to our original point. So we can swap the evidence portion of the Peel method for something more appropriate. In this case, we can say, elaborate. We can tell the reader that an informal conversation is a recognized form of data collection. That takes care of the data collection method. Before we address the next question, we first have to evaluate if the question can be answered in this paragraph. For this, you go back to the basics. As you may recall, in our previous tutorial, we mentioned that one paragraph should have one idea. So, is convincing the reader that they can trust our data part of this paragraph based on the original point? Yes. So we can repurpose the explain part of the Peel method to convince the reader that even though the informal conversations were unplanned, we still applied rigor when handling the data, and because of that, it ended up in the same place as the planned data. Again, we evaluate if the next question is applicable in this paragraph. Since our point has nothing to do with findings or contributions, we leave these questions for now. However, we need to jot them down in our document as a reminder that the reader would want to have them answered at some point. This is an example of adding possible primary and secondary questions as comments to your document. We just use the standard MS Word function. So back to our example. Now we have to reconfirm our original point that while informal conversations were not part of the original design, the data is still usable. The overall point is, while you are the writer of your thesis, dissertation, or paper, the reader is your director. Your goal is to answer likely questions the reader may have. For all intents and purposes, we are writing not for ourselves, but for the person reading our work. In summary, academic writing is about getting your point across so you can adjust frameworks as needed to achieve the goals. And write with the reader in mind. They are the director. That concludes this lesson. The next one will be on focusing how to string sentences together in a coherent fashion to improve arguments. Thank you for watching. Let me know what other topics you would like me to cover. Signing off.